The coffee spilled, splashing Ethan's shoes as Caleb fumbled an apology at the San Francisco Art Fair. Their laughter broke the tension, sparking a conversation that stretched into the night. But Caleb's wedding ring glinted in the sunlight, a silent warning. Ethan, openly gay, felt the pull of something dangerous, a connection too strong to ignore. As they parted, Caleb's lingering glance left Ethan with a question. Could he risk falling for a man already bound to someone else? Ethan, a 32-year-old graphic designer, wasn't looking for trouble. He'd spent years building a life true to himself, navigating the highs and lows of being out in a city that prided itself on acceptance. The art fair was just another Saturday, booths filled with vibrant sketches, the hum of chatter, and the salty breeze off the bay. He'd stopped to admire a watercolor when Caleb, a 35-year-old teacher, bumped into him, sending his coffee cup tumbling. "Sorry, I'm a klutz," Caleb said, grabbing napkins. Their hands brushed as they cleaned up, and Ethan caught a spark in Caleb's quick smile. They talked, first about the art, then about the city, then about nothing in particular. Caleb's easy humor and sharp wit drew Ethan in, and soon they were wandering the fair together, sharing stories over street tacos. Hours slipped by, and when Caleb mentioned his wife, Anna, Ethan's stomach twisted. The ring on Caleb's finger wasn't just a detail, it was a wall. "Anna's great," Caleb said, his tone casual but his eyes flickering with something unspoken. "She's a nurse, always working late." Ethan nodded, unsure how to respond. He wanted to ask more, to probe the hesitation in Caleb's voice, but he didn't. Instead, he steered the conversation back to safer ground. Movies, music, the best dive bars in the Mission District. By the time they parted, Ethan had Caleb's number, saved under Art Fair Guy. The next week, Ethan couldn't shake the memory of that day. He told himself it was nothing, just a friendly connection. But when Caleb texted, suggesting a walk along the Embarcadero, Ethan's pulse quickened. They met at dusk, the city lights reflecting off the water. Caleb talked about his job teaching high school history, his passion for stories of resilience. Ethan shared his latest design project, a mural for a local queer youth center. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, but every so often Caleb's gaze would linger, heavy with something Ethan couldn't name. "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" Caleb asked suddenly, leaning against the pier railing. The question caught Ethan off guard. He studied Caleb, searching for context, but Caleb just stared at the bay, his jaw tight. "Sometimes," Ethan admitted, "but I fought hard to be myself. Took years to stop pretending." He paused, weighing his words. "What about you? You seem restless." Caleb's laugh was sharp, almost bitter. "Restless. Yeah, that's one way to put it." He turned to Ethan, his expression raw. "I don't know what I'm doing here, Ethan, but I know I wanted to see you again." The air between them shifted, charged with unspoken possibility. Ethan's heart raced, but warning bells rang in his mind. Caleb was married. This wasn't just a flirtation. It was a line that, once crossed, could hurt people. Yet the pull was undeniable, like gravity. "We should be careful," Ethan said, his voice low. It's complicated." Caleb nodded, but his hand brushed Ethan's as they walked, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through him. "I know," Caleb said, "but I don't want to stop." Over the next few weeks, their meetings became a quiet routine. Coffee at a tucked-away cafe, walks through Golden Gate Park, late-night texts about nothing and everything. Each encounter deepened the connection, but also the tension. Ethan caught himself waiting for Caleb's messages, his mood hinging on their plans. At work, his friend Mia noticed his distraction. "You're glowing, but you look like you're hiding something," she teased. Ethan brushed it off, but guilt gnawed at him. He was falling for a man who wasn't free. One evening they met at a quiet bar near the Castro. Caleb was late, his face drawn when he arrived. "Rough day," he muttered, sliding into the booth. Ethan wanted to ask, but Caleb changed the subject, asking about Ethan's mural. As they talked, their knees brushed under the table, and neither pulled away. The contact felt deliberate, electric. Ethan's resolve wavered. "Caleb, what are we doing?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Caleb's eyes met his, intense and conflicted. "I don't know," he admitted. "I've never felt this before. Not with Anna, not with anyone, but I can't just walk away from my life." The words hit Ethan like a punch. He wanted to argue, to demand clarity, but the vulnerability in Caleb's voice stopped him. Instead, he reached out, his hand covering Caleb's for a brief moment. "Then why are you here?" Ethan asked, not accusing, but searching. Caleb didn't answer right away. He looked down at their hands, then back at Ethan. "Because when I'm with you, I feel like I'm finally awake." The confession hung between them, heavy and dangerous. Ethan knew he should walk away, protect himself from the inevitable fallout. But as Caleb's hand tightened around his, he felt the spark ignite into something he couldn't ignore. They were treading on fragile ground, and every step pushed them closer to a breaking point. As they left the bar, a passerby's glance lingered too long, a reminder of the world watching. Ethan's heart pounded, not just with desire, but with the growing fear of what this could cost them both. Ethan's phone buzzed as he walked home from the studio, the San Francisco fog curling around him. Caleb's text was brief. "Meet me at the Pier, 8 p.m. His heart skipped, but unease followed. Their secret meetings, coffee shops, late walks, were growing riskier. Last week, a colleague had spotted them laughing too closely at a food truck. The knowing glance had left Ethan rattled, the weight of their hidden connection pressing harder. At the pier, Caleb was already there, leaning against the railing, the city's lights shimmering on the bay. He looked tense, his shoulders hunched. "You okay?" Ethan asked, stopping beside him. Caleb didn't meet his eyes. "Anna asked where I was last night. I lied. Again." His voice was low, strained. "I told her I was grading papers, but I was with you." Ethan's stomach twisted. He'd known this was coming. The lies piling up, the guilt creeping in. "Caleb, we can't keep doing this," he said, though the words felt hollow. "Someone's going to get hurt." Caleb turned to him, his gaze sharp. "You think I don't know that? I'm trying to figure this out, Ethan. But every time I try to pull back, I just can't." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You're in my head all the time." The confession sent a jolt through Ethan, but it was laced with dread. He wanted to reach out, to close the gap between them, but a jogger passed by, glancing their way. Ethan stepped back, the moment broken. "We're playing with fire," he said. "What if Anna finds out? What if someone saw us?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "I know, but I don't know how to stop this without losing you." The words hung heavy, unanswered. They walked in silence, the pier's wooden planks creaking underfoot. Ethan's mind raced. Part of him wanted to demand Caleb choose, to stop the half-truths. But another part feared pushing too hard would break whatever this was. As they parted, Caleb's hand brushed his, a fleeting promise that left Ethan's heart pounding. The next day at work, the whispers started. Mia, Ethan's co-worker, pulled him aside during lunch. "People are talking," she said, her tone gentle but pointed. "You and that married guy. Folks are noticing. Just be careful, okay?" Ethan forced a smile, but her words stung. The studio, once a safe space, now felt like a stage where his choices were scrutinized. Caleb faced his own pressures. At school, a parent had questioned why he seemed distracted, hinting at rumors about his new friend. He texted Ethan later, his words clipped, "This is getting messy. Need to talk." They met at a quiet park, away from prying eyes. Caleb looked exhausted, his usual warmth dimmed. "Anna's starting to suspect something," he admitted. "She asked why I'm always out. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up." "Then tell her," Ethan said, his voice sharper than intended. "Or walk away from me. You can't keep us both hanging." Caleb flinched, his hands balling into fists. "It's not that simple. Anna's been there for me through everything. My dad's death, my career. I owe her. But with you..." He trailed off, his eyes searching Ethan's. "It's like I'm finally seeing myself clearly." Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to believe Caleb, to trust the pull between them. But the reality of Anna loomed large. "I'm not going to be your secret forever," he said. "I fought too hard to live openly to hide now." Caleb nodded, his expression torn. "I know. Just give me time." Time, Ethan thought, was the one thing they didn't have. The next evening they met at a dive bar, hoping for a moment of normalcy. But the tension followed them. A stranger's lingering stare made Ethan shift uncomfortably, and Caleb's phone kept buzzing, Anna checking in. When Caleb ignored the call, Ethan's frustration boiled over. "Answer it," he said. "Or are you going to keep pretending everything's fine?" Caleb's hand shook as he silenced the phone. "I'm trying, Ethan. I'm trying to figure out who I am." His voice cracked, raw with conflict. "I've never done this before. Felt this way about a guy. It's terrifying." Ethan softened, guilt mixing with his anger. He reached out, their fingers brushing under the table. "I know it's hard," he said, "but we're running out of time to decide." As they left the bar, a co-worker of Caleb's passed by, her eyes narrowing. Ethan's heart sank. The secret was fraying, and the consequences were closing in. Back at his apartment, Ethan stared at his phone, Caleb's last message glowing, "I can't lose you." But the weight of their choices was heavier than ever, and Ethan knew the next step would change everything, for him, for Caleb, and for Anna. The knock on Ethan's door came late, sharp and insistent. He opened it to find Anna, her eyes red and voice trembling. "You're the one he's been seeing, aren't you?" she said, stepping into his San Francisco apartment without waiting for an invitation. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. Caleb had told her everything. "I trusted him," Anna continued, her words cutting. "And you knew he was married. How could you?" Ethan's throat tightened. "Anna, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen." But his apology felt hollow. He'd known the risks, felt the guilt every time he met Caleb, yet he hadn't stopped. Anna's pain was raw, her voice rising. "You didn't mean it? Then why didn't you walk away?" She turned, leaving before Ethan could respond, the door slamming behind her. The confrontation left Ethan shaken. He texted Caleb, "Anna was here. We need to talk." Caleb's reply was immediate. "I'm coming over." When Caleb arrived, he looked wrecked, his hands shaking as he sat on Ethan's couch. "I told her last night," he said. "I couldn't keep lying. She's devastated, Ethan. She thinks I betrayed everything we built." "You did," Ethan said, the words slipping out before he could stop them. Caleb flinched, but Ethan pressed on. "I'm not innocent either. I knew what we were doing was wrong, but I kept going. Now she's hurt, and we're the reason." Caleb's eyes glistened. "I never wanted this, but I couldn't pretend anymore. I've been hiding who I am my whole life, marrying Anna, trying to fit in. Meeting you, it changed everything." He reached for Ethan's hand, but Ethan pulled back, torn. "What about your family?" Ethan asked. "Have you told them?" Caleb's face darkened. "I called my parents today. They said I'm a disgrace, that this is a choice I can unmake. They won't speak to me until I fix it." The rejection in his voice hit Ethan hard. He knew that pain. His own coming out had cost him friends, strained ties with relatives. But Caleb's world was unraveling faster, and Ethan felt the weight of being part of it. The next day, Ethan faced his own fallout. At the studio, Mia pulled him aside again. "People are talking," she said, her tone sharp. "They're calling you a homewrecker. I know you, Ethan, but this looks bad." Her words stung, echoing the judgment he'd faced years ago when he first came out. He wanted to defend himself, to explain the connection he felt with Caleb, but the truth was messy. He wasn't just a bystander. He'd chosen this path. Caleb, meanwhile, was drowning in his own consequences. At school, whispers followed him. A colleague confronted him after overhearing a parent's complaint. "Is it true? You're leaving your wife for a guy?" Caleb didn't deny it, but the question left him exposed, his carefully built life cracking under scrutiny. He texted Ethan, "I feel like I'm losing everything. Can we meet?" They met at a quiet bench in Golden Gate Park, the city's hum distant. Caleb's voice was low, broken. "I didn't expect it to hurt this much," he said. "Anna's moving out. My family's done with me. But when I think about you, it's the only thing that feels right." Ethan wanted to believe him, to cling to the spark between them, but doubt gnawed at him. Was their connection worth this pain? "I'm scared, Caleb," Ethan admitted. "Not just for us, but for what we've done. Anna didn't deserve this. Neither did your family." Caleb nodded, his hands clasped tightly. "I know, but I can't go back to pretending. I'm done hiding." Their conversation was cut short by a passerby's shout, a cruel word hurled from a car speeding by. Ethan's chest tightened, the familiar sting of hatred hitting hard. Caleb's face paled, but he grabbed Ethan's hand, holding it defiantly. "I'm not ashamed of this," Caleb said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his grip. "Not anymore." The moment felt like a turning point, but it didn't erase the chaos. Ethan went home, replaying Anna's accusations, Caleb's confessions, the stranger's slur. He'd fought for years to live openly, to build a life free of shame. But now he felt complicit in someone else's pain. Caleb was choosing him, but at what cost? As he stared at his phone, Caleb's latest message glowed. "I'm all in." "Are you?" Ethan didn't reply, his heart caught between hope and the fear that their love might be built on too much hurt to last. The fog rolled thick over San Francisco's Pier as Ethan waited for Caleb, the air heavy with salt and uncertainty. Caleb's text had been urgent. "Meet me at our spot. I need you." After Anna's confrontation and Caleb's family cutting him off, Ethan felt the walls closing in. Their connection, once a spark of hope, now carried the weight of broken lives. As Caleb approached, his steps quick, Ethan braced himself for whatever came next. "I'm done hiding," Caleb said, stopping close enough for Ethan to feel his breath. "I told Anna I'm leaving. I told my principal I'm taking leave. I want to be with you, Ethan, openly." His voice was firm, but his hands trembled. Ethan's heart raced, torn between relief and dread. "What about everything you're losing?" he asked. "Your family? Your job? Anna?" Caleb's eyes darkened. "I've lost them already. But you? You're the one thing I can't let go." He reached for Ethan's hand, but Ethan hesitated, the memory of Anna's pain flashing in his mind. "This isn't just about us," Ethan said. "We hurt people. I'm part of that." Caleb nodded, his grip tightening. "I know, and I'll carry that guilt forever. But I can't keep living a lie. I've spent years pretending to be someone I'm not. With you, I'm finally me." The words hit Ethan hard, echoing his own journey to live authentically. But the cost was undeniable. Anna's trust shattered, Caleb's family estranged, their community whispering. They walked along the pier, the city's lights blurred in the fog. A group of tourists passed, one muttering a slur under their breath. Ethan tensed, but Caleb held his hand tighter, refusing to let go. "Let them stare," Caleb said, his voice low but defiant. "I'm not ashamed anymore." The moment was electric, a stand against the world's judgment, but it didn't erase Ethan's doubts. Could they build something real on such fractured ground? Back at his apartment, Ethan's phone buzzed with a message from Mia. "Heard about Caleb's wife. You okay?" He wasn't. The studio was abuzz with gossip, colleagues casting side glances. One had called him out directly. "You're messing with a married guy, Ethan. Not cool." The accusation stung, reigniting old wounds from when he'd faced rejection for being gay. He wanted to fight back, to explain, but the truth was too tangled. Caleb faced his own battles. He'd moved into a friend's spare room, his life now a suitcase and uncertainty. At a coffee shop meetup, he told Ethan about a call with his sister. "She said I'm selfish, that I'm throwing away my family for a phase," Caleb said, his voice cracking. "But this isn't a phase. It's who I am." Ethan reached across the table, their fingers locking. "I know," he said, "but it's not just about us anymore. People are watching, judging." The tension peaked one evening at a local bar. They'd gone for a quiet drink, hoping to escape the chaos. But a former colleague of Caleb's approached, his tone sharp. "You're the guy who broke up his marriage, right?" he said to Ethan, loud enough for heads to turn. Ethan's face burned, but Caleb stood, his voice steady. "No one broke anything. I made my choice." The room felt suffocating, eyes on them like spotlights. Ethan grabbed Caleb's arm, pulling him outside. In the cool night air, Ethan's frustration spilled over. "This is what I was afraid of," he said. "We're not just fighting for us, we're fighting everyone else too." Caleb stepped closer, his hand brushing Ethan's. "Then we fight together," he said. "I'm not running from this. Are you?" Ethan's heart pounded. He wanted to believe in Caleb, in them, but the world's weight pressed hard. "I don't know if I'm strong enough," he admitted. Caleb's gaze softened. "You are. You've been out, living your truth for years. Show me how." The plea was raw, and Ethan felt the spark reignite. They stood there, hands clasped, the city's hum fading into the background. As they parted, Caleb's words lingered. "I'm all in, Ethan. No more secrets." Ethan nodded, but doubt lingered. They were choosing each other, but the path ahead was littered with consequences. Anna's pain, society's judgment, their own guilt. The pier, once their haven, now felt like a battleground. Ethan knew the next steps would test them both, but for the first time, he felt a flicker of resolve. They'd face it together, whatever it took. The San Francisco sunset painted the pier in gold as Ethan and Caleb walked, their hands brushing but not quite holding. Months had passed since Caleb left Anna, since their lives unraveled and began to reweave. The choice to be together was made, but the scars of their journey lingered. Ethan glanced at Caleb, his heart steady, but heavy. They'd fought for this, but the world hadn't made it easy. Caleb had settled into a small apartment, his teaching job on hold while he navigated the fallout. Anna had moved across town, starting therapy to heal. Ethan had seen her once at a grocery store, her eyes distant but kind. "I don't hate you," she'd said, her voice soft. "I just needed time." The words eased Ethan's guilt, but didn't erase it. He and Caleb had hurt her, and that truth sat between them like an uninvited guest. At the studio, Ethan faced lingering whispers. A colleague's cold shoulder stung, but Mia stood by him, offering coffee and quiet support. "You're not a villain," she said one day. "You're just human." Her words helped, but Ethan still wrestled with his role in the pain. He'd spent years living openly, yet now he felt judged anew, not for being gay, but for loving someone who wasn't free. Caleb's family was another wound. His parents hadn't spoken to him since his coming out, their silence a wall. But his sister, Emily, reached out. They met at a cafe, and Ethan waited nearby, nerves tight. Caleb returned, his expression mixed. "She's trying," he said. "She doesn't get it, but she listened, said she misses me." It was a small step, but it sparked hope. Caleb clung to it, determined to rebuild. They found refuge in small acts. Volunteering at an LGBT youth center became their anchor. They mentored teens, sharing stories of struggle and resilience. One night, a shy kid named Sam asked Caleb how he knew he was gay. Caleb paused, then said, "It was like waking up after years of sleepwalking. Scary, but worth it." Ethan squeezed his hand under the table, pride swelling. They were building something beyond themselves. The world still pushed back. At a pride event, a heckler's shout cut through the crowd, calling their hand-holding wrong. Ethan tensed, but Caleb stood firm, his grip unwavering. "Let them talk," he said later, his voice steady. "I'm done hiding." Ethan admired his resolve, but the slurs echoed his own fears, of judgment, of losing what they'd fought for. Yet each challenge strengthened their bond, a quiet defiance against the noise. One evening, they returned to the pier, their old haven. The air was crisp, the city's lights flickering alive. Caleb stopped, turning to Ethan. "I was terrified when this started," he said. "I thought I'd lose everything. But you're my home now." Ethan's chest tightened, the weight of their journey settling into something solid. "I was scared too," he admitted. "But we're here, together." They stood close, the waves lapping below. Ethan thought of Anna, healing on her own terms, of Caleb's family, slowly softening, of the kids at the center, finding courage in their story. Their love hadn't come without cost. Anna's trust, Caleb's old life, Ethan's peace. But it was real, forged through honesty and pain. "We'll keep fighting," Ethan said, his voice firm. Caleb nodded, a small smile breaking through. together. As they walked on, Ethan felt a shift. The pier, once a place of secrets, now held their truth. The road ahead wasn't smooth, judgments lingered, wounds took time, but they were writing their own story. Not perfect, but theirs. The sunset faded, and Ethan knew, whatever came next, they'd face it side by side, unapologetically themselves. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell. More stories are coming that will move you, inspire you, and challenge the way you see your own journey. Every story matters, and each one brings us closer to who we are meant to become.